Joyride is another viewer-requested video. See? If you request stuff in the comments, I'll probably do it, because I need your approval. Please approve of me by liking, sharing, and subscribing. The numbers going up make the dopamine happen. The movie was pretty fascinating overall. I didn't expect it to be a thriller, and I was trying to alternate my content a little bit better than this, but it is what it is. More importantly, we get some reoccurring characters in this. Jim Beaver and Jay Hernandez both make cameos in this movie. That's pretty neat, and kinda weird. Content warning. This review will contain mild scenes of violence, stalking behavior, and more supernatural references. Viewer discretion is advised. As always, this review will contain spoilers. I could probably do this one without spoilers, but I'm not going to. I like describing movies in an obtuse and stupid way. Also, this movie's old enough to drink next year. You've had your chance to watch it. Fresh off the success of the first Fast and the Furious movie, Paul Walker stars in this movie as Lewis Thomas. He has a crush on this girl called Venna, played by Lily Sobieski. They're on the phone and go to different colleges.
Started crying, which sort of sealed the deal, you know?
You made him cry.
I broke up with him. Wouldn't you cry?
Venna talks about how she doesn't want to fly home and would instead like to drive.
Wish I had a car, then I could just get there gradually. If you had a car, you could stop by Colorado and pick me up. We could have an adventure, the two of us and a windshield.
Lewis sells his plane ticket and buys a car immediately. I guess in the 90s you could just do that kind of thing.
Sexy choice.
Yeah?
Yeah. Vintage 1971. Chrysler Newport.
He starts his drive from Berkeley over to CU Boulder, and he talks to his mom on a payphone while making his way there. Wait. Some of the people watching might not remember what a payphone is. So, imagine your cell phone, but instead of texting them and sending them pictures of your meals and your privates, you actually call them. And you can only be in one place to do this. The 90s was a hellscape, and I'm glad technology is now less primitive. His mom is a bit distraught because his brother has been arrested. Being a good brother and citizen, Lewis stops off and bails him out. Fuller Thomas, played by Stephen Zahn, is kind of a fuck-up, apparently. He's in and out of jail, and constantly does things to piss people off for no reason. They decide to drive together, at least until Denver, and then they'll definitely part ways. Fuller installs a CB radio into Lewis's new ride because he thinks he's Exhibit and can just do things like that. Wait, that show wouldn't start for 2 more years after this movie comes out. Fuck. Well, anyway, what's done is done. And that's Lewis's attitude towards the radio as well. Fuller uses it to see if there are any cops ahead and if it's okay to speed, basically. Having picked up the nomenclature at some point. He then convinces Lewis to do a girl's voice over the radio and pretend to have a relationship to see if any of the truckers are horny enough to talk to someone over the airwaves.
Hey, can you do a woman's voice? What? Do a girl. Say, hey, Black Sheep, this is, Miss...
Hey, Black Sheep, this is Candy Cane. I've been looking for you all day.
One bites and calls himself Rusty Nail, who is voiced by Ted Levine of Monk fame. Also, Buffalo Bill of Silence of the Lambs, but I don't think anyone's seen that movie.
Candy cane, come on.
I knew it! These guys are so fucking horny. All right, get them going, get them all worked up, and then in the middle of it, say, hey, guess what? I'm a dude.
Hey there, who's this?
Rusty Nail.
Well, Rusty Nail, I hope you're doing better than I am. Man, this drive, it seems like it's taking forever.
They play around for a while, and Lewis seems to be less reticent as time goes on. They stop off at a hotel, and there's some racist asshat harassing the night clerk. Fuller tries to defuse the situation in the way he typically does, by making fun of everything. What kind of monster would take a serious situation and proceed to just make jokes over it? What an asshole. What? Hey, that's different. Fuck you, editor. Piece of shit. The guy body checks Fuller on the way out. Lewis, who stayed in the car the entire time, gets a message from Rusty Nail. He was reticent to answer, but Fuller, ever the bad influence, convinces Lewis to talk to him, and Lewis asks him to come to room 18, where the racist dick is staying, and to bring pink champagne. Rusty agrees and arrives a little bit later. The brothers listen to the events unfold in the next room. Rusty pushes himself into the room, and we hear some gurgling sounds and choking. Choke me, Daddy. The next morning, cops are crawling all about and asking what happened. They show the boys the racist's hospital room. Apparently he's in a coma, and his jaw was removed. They spill the beans, and Jim Beaver, being ever the stern dad, calls them both idiots, but ultimately lets them go.
Mr. Ronald Ellinghouse, laying 2 inches from dead in my jurisdiction. Why? Because you sorry-ass punks thought you'd have some fun. Fuck! I'd keep you retards in custody if I thought it would help answer one of the hundreds of new questions I got. But no, all you know is his damn CB handle, and maybe he drives a truck. Do you understand the kinds of shit I got to grapple with now because of what you assholes did?
Fuller resents Lewis for telling them anything, and Lewis is pissed because he feels that they had gone too far and that they're responsible for someone getting hurt.
I can't believe it. I can't believe you told them that we invited Rusty Nail back. They could have thrown me back in jail. Do you know what that would mean?
A man is half dead because of what we did.
Oh, bullshit. God, bullshit. What? You order 10 pizzas for your neighbor. Delivery guy gets there and your neighbor opens up with an AK-47. Is that your fault?
Yeah, maybe it is.
Fine. Be the martyr all you want.
No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to drive away from this place after what we've done.
Do what I do. Just remind yourself that in 100 years you're going to be dead. It's the closest thing I've got to a philosophy.
The two continue on, and their friend Rusty contacts them again. He asks for an apology, and Lewis is more than willing to give one, but Fuller has the mic and tells him to fuck off, which seems like a stupid thing to do to someone who can just casually remove someone's jaw. But Fuller always seems pretty dumb, so there's that. Rusty reveals that he knows where they are and what car they're driving. They freak out and want to run away, but the car is almost out of gas. They take a sharp turn and get some gas. A trucker stops by in an ice truck and hits his tires with a bat. This shakes Fuller fully. He points him out to Lewis, who is inside trying to leave a message for Jim Beaver, hoping to get some supernatural-esque kick-assery on their side. But he's busy doing other things, probably helping those idiot Winchester brothers out of another problem. Lewis checks out and rushes to the car. The ice truck driver follows them, and they're almost pancaked by another semi. This obvious red herring leads them to drive like maniacs on some dirt road. The trucker kindly returns Lewis's credit card to him, and as he's maneuvering his truck to get the hell out of Dodge, another semi just plows straight through the freight, sending ice everywhere. Rusty is obviously doing his part to battle global warming. Them Duke boys do the best they can to evade the truck that's trying to run them off the road, but end up prom driving into a tree and getting stuck. The truck pins them against the tree and starts to crush them when Fuller finally apologizes.
Come on! Don't kill us, man! We apologize!
Why?
Just for a laugh.
A laugh? Well, I was just playing with you, man.
Rusty backs off, finally, and drives away. They apparently manage to get their car over to the shop, which gives it the old GTA treatment, and it's as good as new somehow. It's also at this point that I realize that the car has a license plate already, which means that the DMV must have moved at light speed during the early aughts. Fuller tosses the radio. They finally make it to Colorado and pick up Venna. They meet Venna's roommate, Charlotte, who Fuller propositions, but she kindly declines and drives off. They get going and stop off in Nebraska for the night. Venna gets Lewis a gift, and they're about to kiss when Fuller interrupts with the meta-knowledge that they were going to kiss.
I want to tell you how much I appreciate you doing this. Picking me up. It's pretty much the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me.
This is the part where you kiss the girl.
God, I just hate people who just spoil movies. What kind of monster would... Don't put that fucking picture back up. God, my editor is such an asshole. They spend the night drinking, and Fuller flirts with Venna. Some chud in the bar decides to hit on her, and she's not receptive, because why would she be? Lewis is about to get in a fight and subsequently get his ass kicked, but Fuller de-escalates the situation by taking Venna out of the bar. They almost kiss, but Lewis gets to be the cockblock this time. Good for him. They say goodnight, and Lewis immediately collapses onto his bed. Fuller starts talking about how he kind of likes Venna, but says to his unconscious brother, who he knows is unconscious, that if he likes her, Fuller will back off.
Hey, Venna's great. You guys are just friends, right? That's what you said. If you're anything more than that, you tell me right now, and I'll beep, beep, beep.
But of course he can't answer, being dead to the world currently. Fuller decides to go for it and gets drinks that he offers to make her.
Oh, we never got those last drinks.
In his long list of skills, he is also a bartender, apparently.
I'm a licensed bartender.
Lewis gets a call in the room because cell phones aren't popular yet, which makes it spookier, honestly. It's Rusty, because of course it is. He asks about Venna and why Fuller and Venna are together. Lewis, understandably, freaks the fuck out and dashes up to her room. They all book it, and Fuller notices that there are messages painted on the road signs and pulls over to check the trunk. Neither of the boys are brave enough to open it, but Venna just throws up her hands and says, YOLO, and opens it.
No! What? God! Don't open it! Why? Why? What if there's a head or a body?
It's the discarded CB radio, obviously. So they reinstall it, and Rusty gives them instructions. They don't want to comply or talk to him, but he's kidnapped Charlotte, which seems rude. They go to some rest stop, and when they get there, he tells the boys to strip down and walk through the restaurant and order some burgers.
Now they know what it feels like. Really good laugh seeing me standing there in the rain holding my bottle.
12 cheeseburgers, please.
So we've gone from attempted murder to college frat pranks. Venna tells Rusty that they apologized and that they feel really bad for what they did, but Rusty isn't having it. He gives them new instructions to go to a cornfield. When they get there, he tells them to get out of the car and search for something. He then starts to chase them with his truck. So now we're back to murder. Excellent. He chases them down into the cornfield until they're all separated, and he manages to kidnap Venna. He tells the boys to get to a motel by midnight, or he'll kill Venna, but sets their car up to do a classic car movie explosion at some point. He shouldn't have had time to do that, frankly.
God damn it, leave it alone! Please! We'll do whatever you want!
You don't feel like meeting me at a motel later, do you?
We'll do whatever you want!
Meet me at the next town. Medford, room 17, midnight. Do not be 1 minute late. If there's any way that you can bring a bottle of pink champagne,
What are you doing?
that's
Come
my
on!
favorite.
God damn it!
They hoof it and manage to hotwire a truck because, of course, Fuller knows how to do that. Bro is a Renaissance man of eclectic and kind of illegal skills. They get to the part of town that he was talking about, only to realize that there are just a ton of hotels and motels. They check them one by one, and none of them pan out, until the last one. He calls them from a motel room and reveals that he's figured out exactly what happened. That they had listened to him hurt the other man, and that he's next door. Fuller goes around and is caught by Rusty, who is actually played by Matthew Kimbrough, but is still voiced by Ted Levine, which is weird, and realizes that he set up a booby trap. If Lewis opens the door, it will blow Venna's brains out, which seems like a little much for such a small prank. Fuller, not wanting to clean up brains out of his hair, manages to warn Lewis and is thrown back. A piece of pipe pierces his leg because this is a movie, and of course that happens. Rusty tortures him for a bit and hangs him from a fence, but also bends the pipe so that it would be really difficult to get out of the way, and attaches the other end to the fence. Lewis runs around to the other side and finds Fuller just hanging out. He tries to pull him down. At this point, the cops arrive and find the dead night manager, who didn't do anything. Rude. They start going through the rooms one by one, and Lewis has to leave Fuller behind so that he can go save the girl. He manages to, but then remembers that he left the stove on. Wait, no. He left his brother to be hit by a madman in a semi. That's way worse. He rushes back and isn't shot several times in the back like he would if his skin was a few shades darker. He tries to help his brother down, and the semi revs its engine menacingly. It charges ahead, and the brothers point out that the trucker is to blame for all of this, and the police open fire as though it was a black kid with a bag of Skittles. Oof. That joke hurts. Hey, if you're a member of the police, stop fucking killing people of color. Maybe re-examine your goals as a police officer and determine that you're not serving the community by crippling it with murder and over-policing. Asshats. Anyway, the truck continues to charge despite having more holes than Swiss cheese, and Fuller and Lewis manage to barely get out of the way. The truck eventually stops and they open the door and rescue Charlotte. The boys ask the cops who it was, and it's revealed that it was the ice delivery man from earlier.
Did you figure out who that guy was?
He's just some trucker named Jones. Looks like he drove for some ice company in Wyoming.
Which causes them to realize that Rusty escaped somehow. This is confirmed in a moment when his voice comes over on the ambulance CB radio.
Looking for a break. Westbound I-80. How's that storm looking? Looking forward to the storm. Washes everything clean.
Cut to black.
Just for a laugh.
I don't think that this movie is particularly complex. This is a basic morality play. Don't fuck with people. You don't know who they are or how they're going to react. Rusty's actions are overblown, but you might get your ass kicked. Or you might unintentionally hurt someone. That's the ethos of the movie. Fuller and Lewis even talk about this in the movie.
A man is half dead because of what we did.
Oh, bullshit. Hi. Bullshit. What? You order 10 pizzas for your neighbor. Delivery guy gets there and your neighbor opens up with an AK-47. Is that your fault?
Yeah, maybe it is.
I could stretch for more themes, but that's basically it. That's the whole movie. It's well shot for the most part. Everything fits together, if a little too conveniently. Not all of the characters' actions make sense. Why did Fuller have a CB radio installed? Why did Rusty alternate between frat boy pranks to attempted murder with no in between? How did he escape? The world may never know. There's just not a lot of meat here, fam. It's a simple movie with a simple message. The acting is serviceable. I like Paul Walker and Steve Zahn. Lily Sobieski does a really good job. I like that she was resourceful and strong-willed. She still ended up being a damsel in distress, but it felt like that with enough time, she might have gotten out on her own. And I appreciate that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything else. Please do the YouTube things. Make the numbers be big. It really helps. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all of that. Suggest more movies for me to do. This one was pretty simple, but fun. Anyway, this is Sean, your favorite aspirant time traveler, signing off.